Hi everyone, welcome back to Soft Power Project. And today we have a beautiful guest. Her name is Ayla. She is a president at PIMS, which is a full service marketing support company serving consumer product industry, which means multiple industries. And she's also on the board of governors for CEW, which is an organization for thought leaders in the cosmetic industry. So Ayla is definitely one of the female leaders that I admire so much. And I got to talk to her in different conferences. And then I approached you because of this podcast. And I wonder, you must have so many different stories and insight on how to be a female leader in this kind of time and also in an industry where you're constantly talking to lots of different females and also at the same time, like younger generation.
Yeah.
So my first question, just what gets you excited about being a leader now and what terrifies you?
Oh my God, what a way to start. Well, thank you so much for having me, Sherry. And yeah, I've really enjoyed all the times that we have been able to talk
Mhm.
business and fun hangout stuff as well. So hopefully we do a little bit both here.
Yeah, let's do that. It's
What
inappropriate, but I think it's fine.
what excites me, oh my God, about being a leader. So I think one of the things, and I don't know if this is a theme when you speak with women, I'm not sure, right? But I did not outwardly ever set out to be a leader, although I probably always was wanting to be in charge of things. And it might be a little bit of a control issue, but it's been actually really challenging to embrace this idea of being a leader or leading people or even going, oh, okay, although titles in one sense almost mean nothing, in another sense, okay, when I go speak to peers, at conferences,
Mhm.
president on my name tag means something a lot different than when it said account director.
Mhm.
I think what excites me is such an interesting question. For me, what excites me in general, what keeps me getting up out of bed every day and coming in to do my best has always been about how can I problem solve? How can I smooth the path? How can I remove a roadblock? And
Mhm.
and what are the ways that we can figure out how to do this? The challenge that terrifies me about any of these things is, am I actually leading? Am I making sure people are coming with me? Am I pushing and pulling in the right ways? Or am I just brute
Mhm.
forcing it and leaving a trail of rubble for people to have to navigate behind me? That's an actual terrifying thought about leadership.
And how many years have you been in this leadership position?
My PIMS leadership. So
Mm.
I've been with PIMS for almost 10 years.
Mhm.
And slightly funny stories. I was hired under one role, and then when the day I started, I already had a promotion somehow. Kind of feel like it might have been a clerical error, but I didn't complain. And a raise too. I don't know what's going on.
Wow.
I don't know how it happened, and nor did I question it. I was like, sounds good.
Good.
This is what I will do.
I take it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what does being a leader mean? And
Yeah.
part of it is taking up responsibility and
Mhm.
accountability and
Mhm.
technically being in charge of things.
Yeah.
And probably if you ask people in my life, they will have certain things to say about me, like I have to be in charge, or I'm always telling people what to do, or I always think I'm right, and I always think I have the answer. So I think that naturally, do I have a type A personality? Outsiders, I've never said I have, but would other people say so? I probably think they would.
Mhm.
So it just led me down this path of give me more.
Mm.
I will do more. I'm interested in doing more. I do want the
Mm.
responsibility. I'm not afraid of it, even though I know that it
Mm.
only gets harder from here.
Mhm.
It's still the
Mhm.
thing I'm interested in.
Mm. I think that's so beautiful when you talked about what excites you and how you define leadership is actually, it's really the problem solving and be creative, solving problems. So you're not afraid of problem, and that's what you said. How does that feel like? Not afraid of problems.
Is that just because, is that a point of view thing? Like, is everything a problem so I don't have a choice?
I mean, yeah.
When I was 16, I remember now, I do think like we probably didn't talk about mental health the way that we do now, but I
Uh-huh.
definitely think I had like some actual clinical depression. But,
Mm.
as a 16-year-old, it's like it's teenage angst. You're going to be
Yeah.
fine.
Uh-huh.
But I remember I had a summer job and my manager was like, my managers were these two, what felt like older guys. They're like college dudes. They're probably like 18 years old or something. And they were like, what is wrong? Asking me all these questions. They're like, you know what your problem is? You don't
Mm.
see the glass as half empty or half full.
Mm-hmm.
You see it as empty and shattered on the floor. So I think like what I really see is it's a bit of a nihilistic approach of like, none of it ultimately matters. So that means like this too
Mm.
shall pass, positive
Mm.
and negative. But okay, it's a problem. Okay.
Mm.
And all we
Mm-hmm.
can do is keep marching on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, I think that's so beautiful. And that's something I definitely want to learn for myself is that I think it's how you define problem and how you see this word
Hmm.
problem, right? Um, Problem sounds so negative,
Yeah.
right? You have to overcome it. It gives me anxiety when I think about problems. But to you, you know that this is going to pass.
Yeah.
It's not going to stay. Why do you think you have this point of view and perspective?
Ooh, good question. I definitely didn't always, although I'm
Mhm.
not a dweller. So I'm
Mm,
not. I don't hold grudges. I think when I was a little younger, I probably hung on to stuff more, but I I'm not a worrier, really. If I'm worrying, that means it's like
mhm,
DEFCON 1 highest level kind of issue. I just don't worry. I can't. So I
mm,
think that allows me to see that nothing is permanent.
mhm.
And depending on who you are, though, like all of these thoughts could actually be problematic for you. I think it has a lot to do with the way you look at the world. If nothing is permanent, that could be
Right,
really uncomfortable for someone else,
right.
But
Mhm,
I think experience also has taught me like, it's true, like this is we live in a transient world. Things do not
mhm,
stay the same, and I'm going to be okay. I'm going to get to the other side of this.
mhm,
And the only frustrating thing is either figuring out how or only time, will heal the situation. So it's like when will that be? You don't know. But
mhm.
also thinking about other people. I'm a reader. I read
Yeah.
books, as you may have
Mhm.
heard. I ask people about books they've read. But so I think through reading is also how I've learned personally. I think it's how everyone can learn. I encourage everybody to read any kind of book. It doesn't matter. It could be the trashiest novel, but you
Mhm,
might learn
mhm.
something. But
Yeah.
I read in high school, I believe, I read a book by the author Candide,
Mhm.
and it was called, I keep wanting to say Voldemort, and it definitely can't be Voldemort. Voltaire. Okay, see,
Voltaire.
see. And Voltaire, what stood out to me is I believe, because now I'm like mixing it up. So now you're going to get somebody who's like, no, actually, that was the Canterbury Tales, and that was the wife of Bath or something, whatever. Moral of the story is someone is always worse off. And so
Yeah.
in Voltaire, I think we followed all these people who went through these like problems, and it's like somebody, had rough cloth instead of fine cloth for their clothes. They're like, oh, this rough cloth is really bothering me. And then they met somebody who's
Mhm.
like, didn't have clothes. And they're like, huh, okay, so my
Mm.
rough cloth isn't so bad. Oh, my foot hurts. And then you meet someone who like doesn't have legs and you're like, okay, I think I'm gonna make it through.
Mm.
So perspective has a lot to do with how
Mm.
I view
Yeah. Yeah.
problems and the scale of these things, I
Hmm.
think.
Yeah, definitely. I have to bring this up. You were just saying that you love books. And one of the things that really intrigued me about you is that you told us you actually, in the interview setting and you were being interviewed, you ask the interviewer, what kind of books you're reading lately?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I am not probably your best example of work-life balance because it's just fully integrated for me. And so if I'm going to be around people all of the time, and this was like I had worked for a
Mm,
decade with a certain kind of group of people in a certain
yeah.
industry, and then I'm like, I've got to find a new gig. I had people
Hmm.
in my life going, "What are you doing? You're wasting your time." I'm like, "You're right." So now I'm
Hmm.
interviewing, and yeah, I remember talking to. He shall remain nameless unless we want to out him later. But I
Okay.
remember um, not really loving the interviewer, but I'm like, let me learn about him. Maybe he's like a cool guy, someone
Mm,
we could have something in common as we spend a minimum of 8 hours a day
hmm.
around to one another.
Hmm.
Like, what books do you read? Because that could tell me a lot. None. And he's like, I don't read books. I'm like, oh no. Like John Waters has said, like, I don't know if you know, like he says, like, if you go into someone's house and they don't
Hmm.
have any books, like, those are the weirdos. Like, that's who you need to be worried about. And I'm not trying to judge. I do know that not everybody can consume media the same way I do. So I'm
Hmm.
open. And I've since learned that this individual who doesn't read does listen to audiobooks and has even since recommended one to me.
Oh, and he turned out to be a pretty great dude, right?
He is a really good person and kind of a major part of my professional life.
So yeah, I think that's really when I knew like I have to talk to Ayla, and she just seems to have such a really interesting perspective on life and how to interact with people and how to observe and understand what others are thinking. And I think what you just talked about, your perspective on problem itself and
Hmm.
how life is transient, how does that perspective help you to be a leader and not, or to be a female leader
Yeah.
in today's world?
Yeah. So before I had a true leadership role, like, vice president, president, I was just trying to figure out my way and be accountable. Like that's one of our core values here at PIMS, but it's also a personal core value. Like, how could you not be accountable for things that you're doing, right? Like things aren't happening to me. I'm out affecting the world. So I remember distinctly I made a really big mistake and
Mm,
I had a very unhappy client.
mm,
And what are we going to do? And my two supervisors, management
yeah.
tree was like, get in here. What the heck happened? And I'm like, I'm like, I don't really have a good answer, but I'm going to tell you everything that I know. So we're like, this is a problem, but okay, we got to get on a call with the client. And I said, am I going to be on this call? And my direct supervisor looked at me and was like, no, this is not for you. And I was like, phew. Like I was really relieved. But my next immediate thought was, well,
Mm,
I guess if you're going to be a vice president, an owner, a CEO, something like that, you'd better be able to have the difficult conversations. Like you don't just
mm,
get to do the fun stuff. You have to be
mm,
able to deal with the irate clients or the things that employees that do really egregious things.
mm,
That's always been a thought. That's always been in the back of my mind. Like if I'm going to make it to the next step, I'd better be able to do
mm,
obviously what these other people are doing and potentially different, better, whatever, but I got to be able to do this stuff. So now, and I work with a team that is on the client facing side, they are predominantly women.
mhm,
And I think like you can see the freak out happening when something's going wrong, and everyone has their tells. Some people are turning red, some
mhm,
people are, nervous, they're pacing, all sorts.
mhm,
Maybe they're lashing out at
yeah.
others. And I'm like, you've got to calm down because let's just put it into perspective. What is the worst thing that is going to happen?
Mm.
And we are not a company that willy-nilly fires people, so it's probably not you getting fired, right?
Yeah.
The worst thing that's going to happen is, truthfully, this client will leave us.
Mm.
That's bad, but so what? If I'm really thinking about what affects my life, we can deal with this client leaving us. So we do not need to be up here at a 10. We can bring it down, right? This is a conversation. This is how I think, but it's a conversation. And I've gotten this question so many times, how are you not freaking out? It's kind of like, well, where does that get us? Like, what is the advantage to the freak out? And how does it help you, my team, looking to me for guidance? Definitely doesn't help.
So would you say you're someone who's not easily affected by others' emotion?
I would say I'm somebody who doesn't let it show, right? And that's different. So I have a lot of people in my life who laugh at me when I tell them I'm empathetic. But I am empathetic. But this is how it works for me. Okay, Sherry, you're going through something.
Yeah.
You're like, I've been at work all day and I have to go home and I have to pack and I have to do this and I have all these things going on. And then you asked me to do one more thing. Okay, you know what? I felt bad asking you because I knew how that would add to your stress.
Right.
But also, I asked you because you're the appropriate person and I know that you're capable. So my empathy tells me that I actually don't care that you're freaking out because you're going to be fine. So everyone thinks that's not normal empathy, but I understand what people are going through. No, not the personal stuff. I've done all these jobs. If you come interview with me, one of the things I will tell you at some point during this interview is I would never ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. The really bad news is I've done everything here and will.
But what you just said is you actually acknowledged their feelings first. It's like, I understand what you're going through. I know it's tough. But because I trust you, because I know you can't do this, that's why I'm giving you this responsibility.
And that's why you potentially, so it does depend on the role for sure. But if I'm talking to somebody in the C-suite or executives, you took on this role. Like, this is not, like, I'm sorry, everybody, leadership is not a gift, meaning from the company. Leadership might be your personal gift in terms of ability, but leadership is not a gift. I think there's people who think like, oh, I'm going to make it, when I make it to the top, I don't do anything anymore. No, sorry, it's worse.
It's
Gets
worse.
real bad. So I understand that we have all of these things going on, but you know what? That didn't stop you from coming to me with your problems because you're going, it's my job to fix your problem. It's not my job. It's my job to help you figure out how to fix your problems.
And I remember from our chat prior to the podcast, and you mentioned something that I still remembered is the importance of being fair. Because I think a lot of women got placed in the caretaker role.
Yes.
And I made that mistake when I first became a quote unquote leader. I thought I had to be the mom. I had to take care of them emotionally, mentally, physically. But I got so drained, even though I only had a couple of people I had to take care of. And I started to really think about what does that actually mean? And what am I doing that's actually not energizing me and I'm not really doing the leadership role. So tell me about that difference between being fair or being a caretaker.
Yeah. Being a caretaker, I mean, if anybody thinks about any story they've ever heard or they know caretakers in their life, and I'm talking about like when it's their job or it's a child who's taken on the role of caring for an elderly parent, which is many of us would probably say that's the right thing to do, but that doesn't mean it's easy. It can actually be
Mm-hmm.
incredibly draining. And for some people, like ruin their lives because they
Yeah.
don't know how to create boundaries or they think
Mm.
boundaries don't exist with family, things like that, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully, like caretaking in the workplace is not at that scale,
Mm-hmm.
but people, women for sure, like I don't want to be like part of the man hater club because I really am not.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like women carry a really undue burden. We're not supposed to be emotional. We're not supposed to do all these
Yeah.
things. And yet we're still called all of this stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding? I could point at several things in recent media, especially the US, where I'm like, it's not the women. But there's a difference between being kind and nice. And I think nice
Mm.
leads you down the caretaking route. It leads you down like, well, the nice thing to do would be like, make sure everybody has water for the meeting. No, the nice thing to do would be like, hey, everybody, water's
Mm-hmm.
over here, help yourself. Or that's really the kindness
Right.
is that's enabling. And it's hard not to fall into the taking care of and I also call it's the office management. It's the God, just doing it. It's not even about wearing multiple hats. It's just literally doing everything. When
Mm-hmm.
the conferencing system doesn't work, part of it also like is personality. It's a personality trait. When it doesn't work, I'm like, are you all kidding me? None of you could figure this out?
Mm-hmm.
Or you can, and you're waiting for someone else to do it. And both of those things are highly irritating.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely difficult not to fall into the role of solving that problem for everybody every time. It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
But from the perspective of fairness, I talk about that because I'm not here. I think we talked about this. I can't make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
All I can do is give you the same opportunities that I've given everybody else. We can have opportunities for feedback exchange. You can have access to my knowledge for sure, but access to training materials, access to people. But you also have to take that too. Like it's not about everything given. That's what fairness means for me. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, right? Like that's it at a complete opposite side of the spectrum to life is not fair. As we grow, like this is a real challenge. So this company, being my
Yeah.
experience at PIMS, just watching how things have changed and grown and being a part of it is there was a period of time where everything was like gut decision. It seems like the right time for this. This
Mm-hmm.
person seems like they're ready for this role. I benefited from that. So I'm not completely like putting it down because I definitely think I benefited from that. It's like, no, we think you're really doing the job.
Mm-hmm.
But as you grow, unfortunately, you cannot continue to make decisions that way because that's not fair, actually, because it might just be the person in front of you that you're like, yeah, seems like you're ready. There could be 12 people that you aren't as close to for whatever reason that are outperforming this person in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So the fairness is making sure that you put in framework, making sure that
Mm-hmm.
there are stated boundaries, ensuring that people understand what would qualify them, what would make them prepared for another role or the next step. And fairness is not saying, but if you meet all those qualifications, you're definitely getting promoted. That's not fair. What's fair is let's get you prepared. And then when I have a role open, should that day come, you can apply. Internal applications always welcome. And you'll be weighed against the candidates. Our
Mm-hmm.
hope is that you've been prepared better than anybody external because you have the inside scoop,
Right.
you know? Not everybody sees it that way, for sure. No doubt. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like I can't focus. So it's funny because you mentioned earlier, like I thought about people's feelings. I'm going to be honest and say I think about how they're affected. I think about their feelings, but we are not talking about them because I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
distraction from what we are here to do. So I don't, if I'm having our one-on-ones, we're
Yeah.
saying, what are updates? What are your priorities? Are you having challenges I can help you with? What are successes? What are, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the role. It's the last 5 minutes. I'm like, and how are you?
That's definitely not the first 5 minutes. It's just a lot last
It
5 minutes.
can't be. It can't
Okay.
be. And it doesn't mean that we can't have that conversation. It doesn't mean that someone else, you can start that with me.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've seen, what I see is when people in any kind of leadership, even if they are leading just one person, when they focus only on how that person feels, they don't focus on what we're actually here to do. I'm not running a social club. Unfortunately, we have work to do. I think that's the hard part too. And you see, and I think I'm being gaslit. Honestly, I'm being gaslit by LinkedIn. I'm being gaslit by all these successful women who are like, and I don't care. People can do anything they want as long as they get their job done. How are you measuring that they're getting the job done? It isn't just by being like, did you have a great weekend? Oh my God, you look so tan. No, we actually have to talk about work. And we actually have to work sometimes. Like that's how this works. So I was thinking, I'm like, oh, the soft power project. I'm like, I'm not soft. I'm like rough every possible way. There's one area where I think you don't have a choice. You, a person, does not have a choice, right? Me personally, feeling like I might be facing this is burnout. You cannot brute force
Yeah.
through burnout. And you really have to turn into a like what am I picturing? Something super malleable, something that's like a solid but squishy. Like you really cannot force yourself out of burnout. It's not going to work.
How do you cope with that burnout? Or how do you aware burnout and actually acknowledge it and cope with
Yeah.
it?
I think it's tough. So I engaged like a personal professional coach. So she's
Okay.
for me only, but it's really about my professional growth and development. But, it's not separate. I already said that. For me, it's definitely not separate. And the triggers for me, and I think maybe this could be the trigger for anybody, is you said it earlier, what energizes you and what doesn't. And yeah, work is work. It's not play, but work can, for me, be fun. And when I say fun, I just mean I'm getting to do the things I like to do. And if it stops, that's a trigger. And it could be the job, but it could also be something going, oh, it's not fun because I don't have even the energy to approach the things I like. So I had help. I mean, I definitely had help sort of asking myself these questions. But yeah, I think you have to have a level of self-awareness. I think that too, like leaders I look up to
Right.
in life,
Yeah.
in professionally speaking, have to have self-awareness. They have to let you know they're also human. I think that's what I was talking about with the gaslighting, where I'm like, no, 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 this isn't right, guys. You're not doing all this stuff. Where's the struggle?
And I'm just wondering, because I think now I feel like I'm at the age where I do need to talk to younger generation and try to understand how they grow up, how did they go to school, and the fact that they interact with, social media for a lot longer, it depend on it for so long.
Yeah.
All of these different elements really affect the way they think and how they approach professional life. And I'm just wondering for you, and you've led so many of the younger generation, how do you feel about it? And what is the toughest thing, or what's the most exciting thing for you?
I think that I finally reached an age where like I have no idea how old anyone is anymore. And you either are like a baby
Yeah.
or you must be ancient. And do you ever have you ever sort of walked down the street or been around a neighborhood and you see the woman come out of her house? She's definitely old. She could be any sort of ethnicity, whatever,
Yeah.
any culture, but she comes out and she has sensible shoes, a short haircut, a dress, and then the smock.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how? I'm like, but this lady wasn't, when I was young, she wasn't old. So when do you make the transition to cleaning smock? Because apparently all you're doing is cleaning it. Like, what is this? Like your house coat is on. And I saw a lady just this morning where I'm like, she wasn't always like that, or was she? And will I wake up one day and be like, time for the smock? Let me get the knee highs. I really need someone to answer this question for me because they still exist. I thought they would be age out, generational things. I'm like, nah, the smock and knee high ladies are gone. No,
Yeah.
they're not. They're not. They're still going very strong. So anyway, everyone is either the smock knee high lady or a baby. This is like the age I'm at where I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Working with younger people just entering workforce age, graduating college is so interesting because their world, yes, we live in the same world, right? But their world is different than my world because I have all this other context, right? I have a different perspective. I'm like, in my day, I had to knock on my friend's door to ask them, I had to talk to their parents to hang out with them.
Absolutely. Oh my God. And the day that we actually have to memorize phone numbers.
Yes, 100%. And call people's house phones and if I had to do research, I'm like, do you know what an encyclopedia is? Have you ever been to a library to do research? And my partner's son is going into high school next year. And I worry so much because I'm like, you have to have skills. Like your skills cannot just be watching YouTube and playing a video game at the same time. And he's extremely smart. But one of the conversations that we have had recently, and that now he can echo back to me, is you smart means nothing without the ability to apply what you know. And he might just be saying it to me, so I don't lecture him. I don't know, but he's able to say that he understands the concept. So I think that working with the generations just coming into into the workforce is a little alarming because unfortunately, I definitely think that people are getting through all of their learning and higher education and coming out with not a lot of practical applicable skills. And I get it. I get in the corporate world, we work in email factories.
Yeah.
So what is it that you should be learning? But anything. My answer is learn anything. You need to have worked a summer job in a supermarket, an ice cream shop, anything. I don't care. I actually don't care what it is. Like you need to have done something in the real world because if you're working with me, you might get a rude awakening. At other places, I don't know, I guess everyone's super cool and hip and you can do anything you want. Also, the COVID generation, right? Like, so all these kids that are only going through screens, I think that is having a very major impact. Because how then do you interact with people in real life? That's actually, I see this definitely as a challenge. So to reframe the idea of problem is it also an opportunity? All right, that's what I have to tell myself to get through every day. It's just that if you've always gone through life having your problem solved for you, if you've always gone through life like asking and receiving everything you've wanted, if this is how life has worked for you, if you've never contributed to a bill of any sort, if you've never had to buy your own, like growing up for me, if I wanted name brand, that was either a special occasion like a birthday or Christmas, or I was scrounging up my own money somehow. Otherwise, I didn't have 3 stripes on my Adidas. I had 2 stripes from some other, and it sucked, but also whatever. I went without, but it wasn't a big deal. I had really great parents. It was amazing. No complaints there. And they taught me to be self-sufficient. They taught me not to need them. I think if that's what parents could do, we would all be in a much better situation.
Yeah.
You aren't going to always have all these resources. You won't always have your cell phone in your hand. You might find yourself in a situation where you don't have the answers. How are you going to problem solve it? And honestly, like when you talk to people, when you're doing interviews, when you're meeting people out at events, there's a little bit of a difference you can kind of always tell. And I'm not ever trying to offend anybody where I'm like, have you ever had a job before? I actually just need to know so I know where we're starting. Where is the jumping off point? It's not that it's okay, you didn't have, that's fine, whatever. Were you on a sports team? Were you in a club? Did you do any of these other things that could help me help you have
Right.
an idea of what we're about to embark on together if we work together?
And I want to kind of tie it back to something that you mentioned in the very beginning of the interview is that you really believed in setting a structure for the employees because that's how they learn and that's how you can actually grow. What is a kind of a structured training that you would want it to provide for the next generation? Or is there something that you have to keep tweaking because, the younger they are, the more different they are? Yeah, love to hear your thoughts on that.
The idea of structure is directly related for me to flexibility.
Okay.
And I don't believe that everybody thinks that. I think that for a lot
Interesting.
of people, flexibility is this unlimited thing.
Mm, okay.
For me, when we talk about structure, in terms of, especially when it comes to work and processes, it's I have to draw the four walls for you. I have to give you these boundaries and I have to give you process. And in exchange, I actually need you to become, to the best of your ability, an expert in these things. And once you are at a point at which you're demonstrating competence, consistency and competence,
Mm,
then you should be able to show me when it's time to flex out a little bit outside of that. Okay, Ayla's not going to tell me how much something costs unless I give her every single detail. Yes, totally correct. How can I be accurate? How can we do this? But when you are able to come to me and say, I know that you normally need all of these things, but this opportunity is a little different because of X, Y, and Z reasons. Can we look at it differently? Can we go in ballpark? Can we go in high and low range? Yeah,
mm,
exactly. Because you get it now. You understand.
mm,
And so the training, when I think about training, it's actually we're in the process of really kind of modifying our overall training
mm,
programs and deployment. Again, like I come from a history of gut and shadowing.
mm.
Like this is just come with me and we'll figure it out as we go. There's a place for that always, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of foundations that we need to set for people and you have to take it seriously. We always have taken it seriously, but the more we grow or the quicker I need to onboard people, right? We have to have like really substantial programs. So that's like a work in
Yeah.
progress for us right now actively. But I challenge people to always consider like the consequence of not following the structure in the process. Like what are the consequences?
Mm-hmm. Mm,
Because a lot of people talk about maybe the time something takes or I don't have you want me to do that now? Yeah, I want you to do that now because think about what happens when you, the one person, doesn't, check all the boxes on this project or task or whatever it is. What are the consequences? The consequences don't just affect you. The consequences affect a client. The consequences affect ops team. The consequences affect
mm,
finance and they affect you. Wouldn't it be worth it just to follow the process and then all these people who are negatively affected become positively affected and then everybody can like
mm,
go on with their lives efficiently. You don't have to stop and start and go spend more time fixing something. No, you've done it. You've measured twice, you're cutting once, you're doing it right the first time.
mm.
Instead of going, "Well, I just want to move things off my desk." Very transactional. And it's tough. In the corporate world, like that's super tough because I don't get the satisfaction of a truly finished product. I used to think about this all the time. If I was a basket weaver,
Yeah.
when I was done, I could say, here it is.
Yeah.
I did this. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard in the corporate world. It's super intangible. So
Mm,
how I think that's why we depart.
mm.
I think that's why we don't follow structure. I think that's why people are unhappy. Where's the tangible results?
I think there's so much to learn, and I just wanted to kind of use an example, and it happened recently. Of course, I think everyone know the tariff, the whole
Mm-hmm.
tariff situation, and obviously affected, I'm sure affected PIMS like and the customer and all the
Yeah.
clients dramatically, and how you work and how did you actually had to cope with that, given the structure that you had, the boundaries and all testing out, understanding everyone's kind of competency, but
Mm-hmm.
still letting them have that flexibility. So how did that work,
Mm.
especially in that kind of situation?
Yeah. This is a particular situation where there's
Mm,
huge power in being able
mm,
to say, I don't know,
mm, mm,
honestly. And
mm-hmm.
that's a lesson I learned, like, not even kidding. I learned this lesson in like the third grade from my teacher, Alice Wesner. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
somebody I've never forgotten.
Mm,
When I went to London recently and cried when I saw Parliament in Big Ben because she's who taught
yeah.
me about it and like
Oh.
couldn't, I'm like, I can't believe it's real
Oh.
because this is something I learned about when I was 8. Someone who made sure that everyone in her class was getting a taste of what's outside of your
Mm,
immediate realm, right? Questions she would always ask us.
mm-hmm.
We would do sort of these question and answers study sessions, and she would say things like, what was the first colony in the United States? And you're expected to have the answer.
Mm-hmm.
How many colonies were there, that represented on the flag? 13, all these kinds of firm answers. And then she would
Right.
say, what happened to the colony of Roanoke? The correct answer is, I do not know.
Mm.
And people would be afraid of saying that. They'd be like, well, people think. She's like, no. Well, I think that maybe there was bear. No, the answer was, I do not know.
Mm.
So there is power in that's honesty and being transparent. And so, yeah, the tariffs still at some point when it's going to come up again,
Mm.
I assume for the next 4 years. And so internally, it's like, what does this mean? And we're like, yeah, sorry, we don't know. But there's a way to talk to our clients about this. There's a way to understand what
Mm.
challenges they might have that you can say, well, this is the question. We had a client who was actually shipping something from Europe to New Jersey,
Mm.
containers on the water, landing, hitting the port during the first weeks of this whole the tariff, will he, won't he, what's going on?
Mm.
And they said, will I be affected? It's like, well, the answer has to be, it depends on the hour and the day, unfortunately.
God.
But I think people get confidence from the transparency and the
Yeah.
willingness to say, like, we're figuring it out with you.
Yeah.
We don't always have the answer. There's things that I know for certain, and then there's things that, like, we are figuring it out in live, as are you. We will keep you updated. And that's the flexibility to be unsure.
Yeah.
That has to do with, if something goes wrong, if
Mm.
we can talk about it, we can fix it. But if you
Mm.
can't talk about it, it just is going to grow. And I think definitely not everybody is taught how to kind of reason into this place of, these are the things I know. And then, you know what? These are the things I don't know. And
Mm.
then what do I do with those? Can I interrogate the situation and get the answers? Am I just going to continue to not know? How can I continue to shuffle everything around? And I think maybe that's like all of this. Nothing is static. What I thought yesterday might not be true today.
Yeah.
We have to
Mm.
keep moving, and this too shall pass.
I think everything you mentioned actually, so I understand you earlier, you kind of talked a little bit about your point of view on the word soft power,
Yeah.
but everything you talked about flexibility, you talked about being transparent. you talked about being able to just say, I don't know, and completely embrace that, but really at the same time, building that trust with the clients, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what people need. And to me, and actually in a lot of previous interviews that I had with other guests, that's kind of how they defined soft power
Mm-hmm.
is the flexibility, being vulnerable,
Yeah.
and just
Not
say,
brute
yeah,
forcing always into
absolutely.
what you think is the answer.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, how do you feel about that? I mean, now that I kind of offer you these different definitions, how do
Yeah.
you feel about that?
Yeah. No, it almost, it like clicks. It like almost makes perfect sense. So one of the core values that we have here is curiosity.
Mm.
And I said I've got where I am because I was extremely nosy. I
Mm.
was like putting my nose, what are you guys doing? What was that meeting about? Just probably to the point where they're like, just come in.
Are you just outside a glass door?
I'm like, what was that about? Who was in there? What were you guys talking about? But also just being interested in how things work.
Mm.
Why did that go wrong? Why did that go right? What are the, five whys? Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Getting to the bottom of
Mm.
things. But curiosity, right? So that allows me and allows us to ask the question, right? What is this idea of soft power? It's not diametrically opposed.
Mm.
It's, yeah, it is. You're right. It's the power of to not be a square. It's the power to not be every edge has to be precise. It's to say,
Hmm.
I don't know sometimes. I
Yeah.
think that's a really great way to look at it.
I have to say, a lot of things you talked about, I've learned so much about it because I've led small team. I mean, probably 10 would be the most. And that's a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah, it's tough.
It is tough. And I thought in the very beginning, I thought that I had to get to know everyone's personality, how they're feeling every day, and teach them the material in a very different way so that it suits a
Mm,
different person.
hmm.
But it ended up draining me.
Yeah,
Um,
to be that flexible.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that is something I'm currently trying to understand. What do I do? I think what you're saying is that you can be flexible, but there has to be a framework, a structure, and boundary.
Yes.
And that is the word that I'm really interested in. It's setting boundary
Yeah.
and be absolutely comfortable in setting boundaries. And I think for a lot of women and for me, I did not understand the concept of it. I understand the
Hmm.
word, but I don't understand what it actually means.
Hmm.
So, what does setting boundaries means to you?
Hmm.
And has it been sort of easy to
No,
understand that?
no. Setting boundaries is incredibly difficult. That's why people do not do it. And
Hmm.
that's why in some situations, I think that there's people look down on it. So, like
Mm.
family, I think, is a place where people look down on boundary
Yep.
setting
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
because you're like, no, every family is everything. Family is something. I get that people don't feel that way. Everyone's not going to agree with me. But for a personal example is with my mother. I love her
Mm.
dearly. Again, she and my father raised me to not need them, which I
Yeah.
appreciate so much. I went to a local college on a scholarship for my grades, but I did that. And
Yeah.
so when it came to my classes, I'm like, this is what I'm doing. And
Hmm.
I wasn't like, what do you think I should do?
Hmm.
And then I would
Hmm.
see other people I knew being like, oh, my mom says I have to study this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, what are you even talking about? I do not understand. And she and I would get in these arguments as I was getting a little older, especially when I moved to New York. And finally I said one day to her,
Hmm.
not, I can't tell you if I said it in an appropriate way or not, but essentially, when I want your opinion, I will ask for it.
Hmm.
And that just meant like if we are talking,
Mm,
Even if I'm telling you about all the struggles I'm having, I'm not asking for your guidance. I'm asking you simply to like listen to me. And when I want some guidance, you're going to know. I'm going to let you know. And that's a boundary that has been set since I've been on my own for over 20 years. And it
mm,
works for us. And there are
mm,
times when I definitely need her help. But I'm not
yeah.
like, oh no, should I take this job? Let me call my mom. Like that's not how I work. So
Mm-hmm.
for some people that'd be like my mom or how I don't know if I didn't stay with my mom when I went home to visit, she'd be so mad.
Mm,
What? No, I can stay wherever I want or need
mm,
to because everything isn't about, so that's family. That's very difficult for a lot of people. I get it.
true.
People also struggle in professional settings to set boundaries. Women 100% have that challenge. And it's the same thing I was talking about. Who's going to fix the conference room system when it doesn't work?
Yeah.
You idiots can't figure this. I mean, it's a sentence that's probably come out of my mouth and it's not right, but I'm like, are you guys joking? It's not all guys necessarily, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what are we doing here? Who will make sure that we have pastries for the
Yeah.
client visit?
Yeah.
Who's ordering the flowers for the event who's doing all of these things? The boundary for me is you're going
Mm,
to do it based on your role.
yeah.
I'm not doing it because you think yeah, you know so much more about interior design. No, I don't. I'm telling you right now, definitely don't. So, challenge for all of us
Mm-hmm.
is when you do that, when you separate, when you set the boundary and then you watch things go wrong. That's really tough. But you have to let it
Mm,
happen sometimes. And I'm not talking major. I would never let anything hugely important go wrong where I'm like, yeah,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, we don't have a
Yeah.
place to plug in the screens because someone didn't think like whatever it is.
Yeah. Right.
How do you set a boundary? Exceedingly difficult for most of us, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard again, like this is not an anti-man
Yeah.
thing by any means, but I think men have been raised with some inherent strengths, also the
Mm-hmm.
weaknesses, right? Like the ability to talk about mental health or express
Yeah.
emotion in a healthy manner. Like that sucks. Let's fix that. Let's get these guys to fix it. But they have this also ability to have like this unwavering like self-confidence all of the time and not to just constantly take on and take on and take
Mm,
on. I don't know. I don't know. It's not zero. There are men who
yeah.
absolutely for sure do that. But when I just look outside, if I just look into the world at large, I'm like, where's the man drowning under that aspect of the taking on of the random things? Do we have the cat food? Did we
Mm-hmm.
water the plants? Did you put the garbage out? Like all the things going on. So
Mm-hmm.
burnout happens. Like now I'm thinking like God, burnout happens in personal lives too.
Yeah.
Why did Oh God, now we're gonna get depressing. Like why did Virginia Woolf like walk into a river with her pockets full of rocks?
Mm,
You know?
mm,
I think it
mm-hmm.
has something to do with all of this, not having
Mm,
the ability to set
yeah.
boundaries, not
Right.
being able to turn down
Mm,
these socially assigned responsibilities when
mm-hmm.
it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be that way.
Mm. But I think what you mentioned earlier is that sometimes things just have to go wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to watch it fall apart because that's really when you actually set the boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can say, why did this happen? Oh,
Mm,
because nobody knew how to. Okay. You weren't here. Nobody else knew how. Okay. This is public domain information. So next
mm-hmm.
step is now everyone trains on this process or whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
hard though to watch
Mm.
something kind of go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is something that, I mean, I don't really think it's just for women. I think for everyone, and then
Yeah.
especially now, the world is chaotic, to say the least. So setting that boundaries and keep our peace, I think that's one of the most important thing, at least for me. Any last word or wisdom that you like to give our listeners today?
Ooh. You know, the world is a mess, but also it's not the first time.
Yeah.
So I think if everybody had a little touch of this too shall pass, it doesn't mean, and that doesn't mean
Mm.
that you don't do something about it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
That means that we know we're going to come out somewhere on the other side of this. And that's the goal. That plus we have to be open to change. You have to be open to changing, making change. But like
Mm.
if you are attached, when you have strong, strong attachment to the way something has always been, I believe life will be harder. And it does
Mm.
not mean the change is always beneficial to you. It
Mm.
definitely does not mean that. But if you cannot get past how it used to be, then you're not going to be able to see any of the bright lights in how it is now. And so I think those two things combined. Don't be so attached to everything because it is not going to remain constant.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the only way I kind of get through every day. And because I don't dwell, what's the point?
Mm. I feel so at peace right now. I feel like I just had a meditation.
One of us does. No.
I know I mean I'm in the evening, so I'm about to
Mm,
to
yeah.
unwind for the day, but you're
Nice.
about to embark on your day.
Getting it started. This
I
was a great way
know.
to start my day. Loved it.
Thank you so much, Ayla. This has been amazing. Thank you.
No, thank you for thinking of me, for listening to me ramble. And maybe, yeah, I feel like I'm able to take something away from this, right? Like that's important for me. That's how, when I think about my coach, Hannah,
Mm,
every session was not about fixing things, but it was about like, do I have something I can take away from it? So I like this idea of like, I can embrace soft power. It doesn't always have to be like, I'm not just slamming my fist all the time.
now I really should talk to quote unquote him and to see what he feels about.
Get some remarks.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say?
Yeah.
Could paparazzi him outside an event one day and see what happens.
Yeah,
No.
absolutely. I mean, hopefully in our next interview we can get a little inappropriate because that's what I loved about you is your sense of humor and all these jokes that we had outside of
It,
conferences.
and if you can't laugh,
Hmm.
that's then what? I mean,
Yeah,
you gotta have it's the best medicine, and I think it really is.
it is. It is. Thank you so much. And yeah, and I hope you have a wonderful day because I know you're about to go to a meeting, right?
I have a meeting, a meeting, a meeting, a dinner.
And a dinner. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So no, thank you so much. This has been great. I appreciate it.
Yeah.